Morning, everybody. We're just doing a sound test for the live stream.
Um, okay. I think we can go ahead and get started, and hopefully others will join us along the way. So thank you all for being here this morning. I know it's early, so I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Hopefully you had a chance to see the agenda. We have a few updates to share today, and then we'll have a presentation from the NC Safe program, followed by a discussion. And then hopefully we'll have time to also discuss our future advisory board meetings. Um, so to get started, in lieu of a roll call, just for the sake of time, if folks who are on the call could just in the chat put your name and your organization, just so we know who's here, but also we have a guest presenter today, so just to help her get a feel for who's in the room. Um, and as you're doing that, I will go ahead and start with our updates from the Office of Violence Prevention. So, um, the first update that I want to share is regarding our some funding that our office received. We back in May received a subaward from GCC from their CVI PI funding that they received from Department of Justice. And so that's going to be a subaward for the next 3 years. That's going to help us with building the infrastructure for our office, and particularly in the staffing area. So that's going to give us some funds to hire 2 new staff members, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And so most of the money will go to the staffing, but then we'll also have some additional funds to help us with training and technical assistance activities. And that's what those staff members will mostly be focused on. Um, any questions related to that? Okay. So next updates that we have are related to staffing. Um, so Caroline, I'll pass it to you first to give the first update, and then I'll jump in.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well, bright and early today. Real quick, just for as Ciara mentioned, we will be hiring folks. These are federally funded positions, I think in a really exciting space right now. So if you know of somebody that might be interested, and is familiar with violence prevention models and technical assistance, and you think would be good at working with some of the local communities, please point them to us. The positions haven't been posted yet. We hope that that will be done very soon. We're at that weird time where we're at the end of the state fiscal year, and we have to close out everything for the new fiscal year. So we're trying to get them posted, but I don't think they'll be posted until after the start of July. But so we are trying to get that done. Please feel free to point those in our direction. But I think more excitingly, and I'm really thrilled, is I'm going to announce that Ciara is our acting director of the Office of Violence Prevention. And I want to tell you guys, Ciara has been on the ground for many months now, and she kind of came in, and whether you call it drinking from the fire hose or thrown into the deep end or whatever, Ciara has really just handled it with aplomb. And um she kind of came in and quickly found out that Gerard was transitioning because of a personal event, and she just stepped right in, and we could not be happier. And so we are really excited that Ciara is going to be helping with us. So she's going to be your point of contact, if she wasn't already, moving forward. And as we kind of navigate getting through the rest of this calendar year, not state fiscal year, calendar year, and just so appreciate the excitement and the um, organizational skills and just the ability to kind of keep the ball moving forward that CR brings. Standing up something new is difficult. And so we are very excited for what she's been willing to do and the role she's been willing to step into. So Ciara, thank you for that. And I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Caroline. And thank you for sharing the info also about the positions that we'll be hiring. So just echoing what Caroline said, if you have people that you think would be a good fit, please feel free to one, just give them a heads up that these positions are coming, but also feel free to share those names with us so we can keep a lookout. And as soon as those positions get posted, we'll be sharing those postings with you all to please help with disseminating throughout your networks. So really appreciate your support with that. And one other staffing update is that we also have a intern for the summer. We have an OVP intern. Her name is Carrington Mack. She's on the call today. Carrington is a MPH student at UNCG with aspirations to go to medical school. So I know we have some folks here who are in the medical field. So hopefully throughout this summer, Carrington might get a chance to connect with you. But really happy, really happy to have her, and she's been a big help already. And she'll be with us through the end of July. Okay, so those are all of our staffing updates at the moment. Are there any questions from anyone? Caroline?
Just not really a question as much just a quick update, and it does relate to the permanency of this office and staffing. I wanted everyone to be aware that both the governor's office in their budget supported making the Office of Violence Prevention, codifying it in statute instead of just existing through executive order. And there have been a couple of organizations, Child Fatality Task Force among them, that have also supported this in the General Assembly short session. And because the General Assembly session is the General Assembly session, and we are unclear whether there's going to be a budget or what's going to happen, I just wanted to give everybody a status update on that. DPS and our legislative liaisons are supporting that. I know DHHS and their legislative liaisons. I don't know if it's going to make it into what is a final budget, because there's a much bigger battle going on between the House and Senate on how to move forward. So I just wanted to give everybody that update.
Thank you, Caroline. Any other questions about that update or about our staffing? Okay. Hearing none, I'll move to updates about strategic planning. So first of all, I really want to thank you all for all of the time and energy you've put in these past few months in your subcommittees working on your recommendations. We really, really, really appreciate you all taking that time and, like I said, energy to do that. And it's really going to help with informing our strategic plan and the implementation plan that will follow. So I just wanted to give you a reminder that the subcommittee recommendations are due this Friday on the 28th. And so we've actually received recommendations from one subcommittee already. And if you, for any reason, think that your subcommittee may not be able to make that deadline on the 28th, just let me know and we can figure out another due date. But just keep me posted on that. And just to give you all an idea of what the next steps will be after we receive those recommendations. So our kind of internal team right now has been working to like draft an outline of the plan with some of the different sections that we'd like to be included. And then we'll be using your recommendations and then also some information that we plan to collect from some of our partners from other agencies across the state to really form some priority areas, goals, and then strategies to really flesh out the strategic plan. And we are hoping to have a working draft of the full plan by early August, which is why you should have received a calendar invite for the next advisory board meeting on August 6th. And we scheduled it on that date because we're hoping by then we will have a draft for you all to review, and we're hoping that a good portion of that meeting can be spent talking through that draft and getting feedback from you all on that. And then our overall goal is to release the full strategic plan by some point in the fall. And I won't say a specific date just in case that needle moves. But yeah, we're aiming for this fall to release the full strategic plan. So does anyone have any updates regarding strategic planning? I mean, sorry, any questions regarding those updates about strategic planning? All right. Other updates that I wanted to share. One is I just wanted to give you all a heads up that the Governor's Crime Commission should soon be releasing RFPs for a variety of funding opportunities, but specifically relevant to this group, they'll be releasing some funding for community violence intervention projects. And so once that RFP is available, we're definitely going to disseminate that to this entire advisory board. One, for you all to consider for yourselves, but also to share with your networks for other folks that you think may be eligible and could use that funding. So that funding is estimated to, or that RFP is estimated to be released within the next couple of weeks. So once it is, we'll let you know, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. And the last update that I have for you all right now is just that as we are gearing up to increase our internal team and then have more bandwidth to move forward on some training and technical assistance and educational resources, we are anticipating having lots of updates and things to disseminate from our office. And so in preparation for that, we are starting to put together a listserv to help us with being prepared, like I said, for that dissemination. And so we've added a sign up to our website for our listserv, and I will share the link in the chat. You all as advisory board members will automatically be on the listserv, and you can choose to opt out if you want, but hopefully not. But also, I'm sharing the link with you all because I would appreciate your help with also disseminating it with your networks and those who you think may want to keep up with updates and announcements from our office. So I'll put that link in the chat. And I'll ask one more time if there are any questions about any of the updates that were shared.
Ciara, not updates or questions about those pieces, but has been kind of circulating in my sphere in the past hour or two. I just wanted this advisory board to be aware, and I'll put the link in the chat, but that just this morning, the U.S. Surgeon General put out an advisory declaring firearm violence a public health crisis. And reading through it, it actually looks very similar. A lot of the pieces to the white paper that we put out, that was very much I'm looking at Becca's right in the middle. That was very much a group effort of many of you on here, and really aligns, the strategies align actually very closely to what we've been placing. So I'll share that link. I think it validates our work. We might want to look at that as we're finalizing some of the strategic plan as well. We can use that as an input as well. I was looking briefly, I was reading it while you were talking, stress and community violence interruption programs, safe storage, a lot of behavioral health. So a lot of the same things that we were focusing on, it's quite aligned. So it's really, really exciting. I think that it is, I think, he finally caught up with us. I'm kidding a little bit, but I did share our paper with the office of the Surgeon General. They said they were looking into this. So I'm actually hoping that they actually took some of our work, and you can actually see that reflected in the advisory that just came out. So it's just really, really exciting. It feels like we're on the leading edge, and I'm just so grateful to be on this path with you all, and it's really exciting. So I'll put the link to that advisory in the chat.
Thanks, Betsy, for sharing that. That is exciting. And I think Caroline actually just put the link in there for you.
I put the link to the New York Times article just real quick, because that's all I've had a chance to review. If you want the little summary.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Last call. Any questions or comments, thoughts? Okay. So now we're going to move into our guest presentation for today. So I'm going to pass it to Kelly Stone, who's going to give us a presentation on the NC Safe initiative, and will lead us through some discussion. And just for context, we invited her here today to present about that program because, as you know, this month is Firearm Violence Awareness Month. And then earlier this month, NC Safe had their week of action. And hopefully you all are familiar with that program, but if not, you'll get a good overview during this presentation. But we really wanted to also have this presentation, this conversation, to find out how much you all have been able to include this safe storage messaging in your day-to-day work that you're doing with community violence prevention. And specifically, we also wanted to get a gauge of if you're familiar with the resources that NC Safe has available for you to facilitate these discussions, and then if there is any way, any other resources that would be helpful, or any way some of the resources could be tweaked to better support you all in your efforts to spread this messaging in your communities. So with that, Kelly, I will pass it to you. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. As I hopped on here and started seeing the names pop up, I'm like, I feel like I've worked with almost half of you at this point. So I will not spend too much time going through the basic pieces of the campaign. I'm going to pull up a presentation here in a second. But for those of you who I have not met, nice to meet you. My name's Kelly Stone. I work for a marketing firm called Rheingold. We have offices in the DC area and then in Raleigh. I am in the Charlotte area, but we've been working on this campaign since February of 2023. So it's been a really awesome experience to kind of be involved in this from the very beginning, developing the brand and the name of the campaign and seeing it evolve from last year to this year. So we'll just talk through a little bit about the campaign, and then as Ciara mentioned, I'd love to get to kind of a discussion portion where I can hear from you guys and take some notes on, how we can continue to move this forward in the future. All right, so brief overview. This is really the Department of Public Safety's statewide initiative to raise awareness of the importance of safe firearms storage. NC SAFE stands for Secure All Firearms Effectively. And just some key background information about the campaign. It launched in May of 2023 and hosted the first week of action shortly after that first week in June. That was, we just had our second annual one, June 2nd through the 8th. The true purpose behind this campaign is really to focus on safe firearms storage. Everything we put out, all of our resources, everything on social media, all of our partnership work is really focused on that element of reducing gun violence. And so that's just a good piece to keep in mind, because a lot of times it's easy to fall into like, well, now we want to talk about gun safety or, other partner organizations that come on board may have kind of a broader view of what they are trying to do. But our campaign is truly focused on safe storage. And I think the great thing about that is that it can really bring together, I think even the governor said it really well in our kickoff event for the Week of Action this year, that kind of regardless of your political beliefs or what background you come from, safe storage is something that everyone can agree on. And so we really want to hit home that message. We, provide resources on best practices. So we'll get to some of those resources in a bit, including a couple of new ones that have recently been uploaded to the website. And then lastly, as I'm sure you all know, it's not associated with any advocacy-based initiatives related to gun laws or regulations, really just focused on that safe storage piece. So quick recap, we just finished up the Week of Action. Partners hosted over 10 events across the state. Some of you who hosted those events are on the line here, so thank you again for your involvement in the Week of Action. That's our hope, that each year will continue to build on the previous year, and we've already seen some of those partner organizations come back in the first 2 years, and so really excited to build that foundation of folks who are involved every year. We got a lot of new promotional items distributed. One I will call out specifically is the campaign has always had gun locks as one of the aspects, but this year what was exciting is we were able to work with a printing vendor to get the NC Safe logo on our gun locks and then actually package them together. They're in a clear bag with a postcard that includes the instructions on how to use it, as well as a QR code that takes you to a video of a member of the State Highway Patrol showing you how to use the gun lock. And so that's something we've been really excited about, is to see kind of the evolution of, rather than just handing someone a gun lock and hoping that they'll use it or know how to use it, really improving that overall experience to make sure they know how to use it. And then also, just getting general messaging about safe storage out there as well. The postcard does have English on one side and Spanish on the other, which also makes it easy for, regardless of what event you're at, people are not fumbling through trying to get different languages for different people, but it's all right there. And a lot of our printed resources now are Spanish on the front. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. English on one side, Spanish on the other side. And so that's been great to see some of those promotional items get out there as well. And then we were happy to see a really big uptick in social media participation. I think seeing different police, like sheriff's offices and healthcare institutions or education organizations sharing information both on social media, as well as we had a lot of organizations this year sharing information in their newsletter, which we thought was a really a great way to get information out as well to different audiences. So as you all know, there are a lot of reasons that safe firearm storage is important, but the three kind of focus areas that this campaign has messaging about, first and foremost is child access. Firearms are now the leading cause of injury-related death for children and youth in North Carolina, very relevant to what we were just talking about. And I think that's kind of one big piece that really does resonate with our audiences. We just got through doing a large research project where we surveyed over 400 gun owners in North Carolina on their safe storage practices, got to hear a little bit about their motivations behind safe storage or their motivations behind not practicing safe storage. So that was really interesting. And I think, seeing that child access did always come to the top, that a lot of people, they do have that in their minds as a reason to safely store their firearms. However, the other two areas here, theft and suicide prevention, as we know, are very important pieces as well. And they're pieces that people, based on the research that we did, a lot of people aren't thinking about this. They're not thinking about how leaving their gun in their car overnight, maybe they say, oh, well, I don't have kids, or, well, my kids are in my house, so I do leave my firearm in my car. And in terms of suicide prevention, kind of the idea that that's not going to happen to me. My teenager is fine. That's not going to happen to me. But I will say, in talking to some of these, we, in addition to the survey, did some one-on-one interviews, and it was interesting to hear over the course of the interview, people even were having these aha moments of like, I've never thought about this. Both when we talked about theft and suicide prevention. And so, it's a reason to continue getting these messages out there, to hear that someone, some people said by the end of the interview, like, well, this campaign is working because just from this interview, you guys have kind of changed my mind about what I should be doing. And so I think making people aware of these messages is really important. And while we will continue to talk about the child access issue because people tend to really resonate with that, getting these other messages out there are really important to remind people and make sure they know that these are reasons to safely store your firearms as well. So that said, some of the resources that we already have on our website, if you've been on our website already, it's ncsafe.org. We do have shareable social media graphics that were updated for the week of action, and now we're back to kind of our general messaging to continue the campaign throughout the year. That's kind of the first section of our resources. The second section are all of these different flyers. And for those of you who participated in some of our Week of Action events, you probably saw printed versions of a lot of these at the events. These are all available in English and Spanish. I'm just showing the English versions here, but the two I want to highlight, I think they all have their a great purpose and kind of their own unique messaging. The first two here of safe storage options and the checklist are really great, just general audience resources. We obviously have some specific ones like here for pediatricians, for school resource officers. That was an audience we heard early on that they were looking for resources on this topic. And as well as an education leader flyer, which is one of our newer ones. We are hearing from a lot of groups that are working on safe storage in their local communities that they really want to get their school district on board. And so this education leader flyer that was recently added to the website, we're hoping is a good one to help kind of introduce that message and a key resource to take to, whether it's a principal, superintendent, or to a school board meeting. That's a great one to have on hand. These two for parents, there's just a general parent resource as well as this parent conversation flyer. This is kind of another need we heard. And I highlight the needs for these different flyers because I would love to hear from you in the discussion portion. Where are the other needs? What resources are we missing and what gaps can we fill? But this parent conversation flyer was one that, this is a great one, whether you're a gun owner or not, because parents do need to have guidance on how to talk about this topic. It's a tough topic to ask about. And so giving people some guidance on that. And then the last one that I'll highlight here that was just put on the website, I think as recently as yesterday, is this suicide prevention fact sheet. We worked with DHHS on this, lots of help from them in reviewing the information on here, but you can view it bigger on the website. But essentially, it's just a fact sheet for, we wanted to keep the audience somewhat broad, but it's really for mental health providers, school counselors, anyone who may be talking to individuals about the importance of safe storage, or incorporating that into their conversations. This will help do that. And so it talks through what you can do to help, learning more about the issue, knowing the steps of secure firearm storage, asking questions. That's a similar thing that's in our pediatrician flyer of how, as a pediatrician or a mental health provider, can you incorporate some of these questions to help bring attention to the issue when you're meeting with people. So lots of options on these flyers, and just great to keep in mind for different audiences. And then the last thing are our toolkits. These are toolkits that we developed in the first year of the campaign. We heard a need for, people may want to give a presentation on safe storage. And so this first toolkit really allows, gives you all the things you need, the talking points, the presentation file, everything that someone would need to give a presentation, join an event, host a standalone event. So there's a lot of great resources in here if, partner organizations are looking to get involved further. So I won't dive into the website right now, but just noting that all of those partner resources can be found here on this tab. Website URL is ncsafe.org, so super easy to remember and for people to get to. So these are some of the ways, again, I know a lot of you are already involved in this campaign, but I wanted to bring up this slide because this is what we ask of partner organizations. And so I think it's good for you all to have a sense of what are some of the opportunities we do ask people to engage in when they do want to get involved. And so anywhere from posting on social media, or like I mentioned, sharing that information in a newsletter, opportunities to distribute materials in person and virtually. I think we've had a lot of success with distributing our materials at events, but something I would love to see more of is how do we distribute materials in person? I'm thinking of people walking into the gym at a YMCA, or I'm thinking of people going to a gun range or going to a gun shop to purchase a firearm. We would love to find more opportunities to have our materials that are just regularly available. And so would love to hear any ideas on that. And then again, getting unique about our event involvement. It was great to see during the week of action all the different types of events that we were involved in. I know Becca, who's on the line, there was a great event in Winston-Salem that I loved seeing how firearm safe storage was looped in with other kind of safety issues. And I personally love that message and kind of that angle, because I think it makes it really approachable, and just as another way that you need to be keeping your kids and your family and your community safe. So thinking through event involvement, and I think, we focus on the week of action, but there are opportunities all throughout the year. So really expanding that. One of the things we're looking into for the fall is starting to, or I guess not fall, but late summer, is National Night Out. I think that's another great opportunity. And so we're really looking into some partnership opportunities there right now. And then hopefully getting to work with a lot of school districts as the school year gets up and running. So happy to take any questions. I'll pause here for a second. I'm also going to just pull up our discussion questions so we can kind of keep things moving and do two things at once, but happy to answer any questions first, and then would love to open it up for discussion if folks have any ideas.
Yes, thank you so much for this presentation. I was wondering about your funding, as to how long you have funding for.
Yeah, so currently we are on through or until February of 2025. But that's something that, is a continued conversation year over year, but right now until February 2025.
And that is, this is Caroline Ballin. That's through some funding that Juvenile Justice got from the Governor's Crime Commission, I believe. And so there will hopefully be opportunities for DPS JJ to apply for other funding sources. And as you know, there have been requests and efforts made to lobby the General Assembly for some permanent funding for this.
Any other questions? I think I saw one in the chat, but I'm not.
Good morning. This is Sheriff Burkhead.
Hello.
Yeah, great presentation. I have a couple of questions. In your survey, what were some of the reasons people cited for not wanting to store their firearms safely?
Yeah, so the biggest one was having it readily accessible in case of an emergency. And so we saw that time and time again. There were a lot of others who just said, that they would forget after cleaning it or after coming home from a shooting range or something like that. But the biggest thing is that the tension of I want to practice safe storage, but I want to be able to access it quickly. And so, we already do address that in our messaging because we knew that going into that project that a lot of people were going to say that, but that research will help us kind of continue to craft those messages to combat that.
Sure. Yeah, very good. That doesn't surprise me. And my second question is, as far as getting the message out and creating partnerships, have we given any thought to working with local firearm dealers to place this material in their shops, or have them partner with passing out gun locks and talk about safe storage? The research that we received from the FBI and the ATF is that most of the weapons being started, at least in my jurisdiction in Durham, are already in Durham. And so we can educate firearms dealers, and the bulk of them are purchased legally, but somehow end up in the wrong hands. Have we thought about that?
For sure, yes. And we have. I will say that's one audience where it's a little tougher to make those inroads because a lot of them don't necessarily want to have the conversation. They just immediately see the campaign and think gun laws, regulations, gun control. We don't really want to have this conversation. So it's definitely a focus area. And we actually also are starting to form partnerships with gun ranges, which I think is another great place where they can, share information about safe storage. So definitely on our radar. Haven't had a ton of success up to this point, but really hoping that as we get more voices in the conversation of gun owners themselves who want to carry along this message, that'll help build those relationships.
Thank you.
Thank you. Becca, I see your hand up.
Thank you so much, Kelly, and thank you for all your help with our event a couple weeks ago. To Sheriff Burkhead's point, we've also tried to reach out to gun shows. And I think I have the benefit of representing a children's hospital, so it's hard for people to walk past my booth maybe, but we're hoping to start tabling at gun shows. But just to your point that people are wanting their guns readily accessible, we kind of do a segment called Mythbusters. And so in real time, in a conversational manner, we ask kind of, what do you know and what are your concerns? And then we kind of like, in a joking way, kind of do Mythbusters. So my kids don't know where they are. Like, oh, remember when you were a kid? Did you know where your Christmas presents were? And then the kind of locked and loaded concern is we actually have the gun locks in a demo gun. We teach them once how to use the gun lock, and then in real time we say, okay, now open it, and they quickly realize that they're able to access it in probably 10 seconds. And we said, that's actually, you've only used this once and you're only going to get more and more comfortable. So I think it's one thing to kind of tell them like, oh, they're still very easy to use, but it's another thing for them to actually put their hands on it and do it. And then we're starting to see some ripple effect of them saying like, oh, that was actually really easy to use. And at our event, we had someone take, maybe someone else was there. I think they took maybe 20 locks because they wanted to take it back to their neighborhood, which is like so exciting. So I think as much as we can do those hand-on demos, maybe we could start to change those misconceptions. I got excited with kind of their response and just wanted to share that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And that's great to hear. Ronnie.
Thank you, Kelly. Just had a question about whether you've had the opportunity to engage with any of the tribal communities across the state. I think this would be really great, given the high rates of gun violence in many of our tribal communities.
Yeah, so I will say we haven't specifically with tribal communities, and so I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's a great opportunity for maybe some more specific and targeted messaging. So we can, as the campaign continues to evolve, most of our messaging has just been, wide, mass diverse messaging, which just is intended to reach everyone. We haven't done specific messaging campaigns for different communities, but I think as we continue to build on the campaign year over year, the hope is that we can get more specific. And so I'd love to just continue to explore that and have, specific messaging for that community. So that's a great point.
Yeah, so if you want to reach out to me, I mean, I'm thinking, going to powwows and having a booth set up, or doing demonstrations at community gatherings, things like that. I think there will be lots of great opportunities.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that idea. All right. Well, as I have these discussion questions up here, I know we have about 5 more minutes. And so wanted to see if there were any thoughts on any of these questions, and specifically the last one of, where are the gaps in speaking about this topic? And so would love to hear any thoughts on this.
Good morning.
Yeah. Good
Hi,
morning.
this is Sheriff Brame out of Vance County. How's everybody this morning?
Doing well.
Has anybody else experiencing any issues or problems in gun violence relating to Facebook posting? Here in Vance County, we have concerns and issues where someone will paste a party just at a location, a field, somewhere out in the county, and everybody will just come and participate. And we're having a lot of firearms being discharged. We had like 5 or 6 firearms discharged in different locations in Vance County this past weekend. People don't even know each other are coming to these venues just because it's being posted on Facebook.
Interesting. I have not personally heard of that, but that's definitely an interesting thing that we can keep in mind, just to be aware of kind of another way that maybe these firearms are being used. But yeah, I personally had not heard of that. Not sure if anyone else had any questions or thoughts on that. Okay, well, definitely something we can keep in mind. Okay, want to make sure we get through. I can't tell who raised their hand first, but Caroline, if you want to jump in.
2 quick things, and apologies if you've already touched upon it. One, and this is a question actually from Sheriff Burkhead. Have we engaged at all with the Sheriff's Association or the Chiefs Association, some of those law enforcement associations, to talk about this program?
So law enforcement is a big section of our partnership outreach. So I could look at the specific organizations. I would imagine that yes, we have engaged, or at least, sent an outreach email. Some of this is, you have to get to the right person to make things happen. And so we can definitely look into that. And we've also been working with a lot of just local sheriff's offices. So definitely something that's on our radar and we'll continue to push for.
Okay, and then also, I know I was thinking along the lines of veterans, and I know there had been discussion about outreach to veterans who have a high suicide rate. And one, what's the status of that? But also, is there an opportunity for us to partner with 988 or one of those lines that talks to people that are in crisis about locking up their guns and making sure they're safely stored?
Yeah. So we did do one thing for the week of action with AFSP. They had an opportunity to do some like trailer skirts, and so we had the NC Safe branding along with the 988 branding on those. And so that's definitely another opportunity. We haven't talked specifically about what you're referencing. I think that's a great point. So definitely something we can continue to look into, but we've included a lot of the 988 information in our suicide prevention materials. So thank you.
And Kelly, this is Betsy. I'm happy to connect you in directly with the 988 folks. So
Okay.
making sure that the people who are answering the phones on 988 have that information as well. So not only can we give 988 to the suicide messaging, but also the safe storage for the 988. So I'm happy to make that connection for you.
Awesome. Thank you. Anne.
Good morning, everybody. So looking at your discussion questions, I wanted to suggest that NC Safe could speak at the NC Safe Kids Conference. That might be a good opportunity. As well, you might want to check out the Department of Public Instruction, DPI. They have conferences that are planned throughout the year. And for example, the North Carolina School Nurse Conference is in December, and that usually pulls in around 500 nurses. So those are just opportunities and resources. I will drop into the discussion because I know we're running out of time for this section. The second question is what's being done in your community. So I'll just drop in what the Comprehensive Suicide Prevention team is working on to give you a sense of that. And then lastly, gaps in speaking about this topic, resources that would be helpful. There's two things that the team has been thinking about and talking about. One is we continue to talk about gun locks. Great, we love them. There is no primary organization that has consistent access to free locks and safes and such that can store those items, and then anybody in North Carolina, be it a sheriff, be it a community organization, whomever, a parent group, could write to, email, whatever, this primary organization and say, hi, I'm having an event on Friday, I need 100 locks. We think it would be great if somebody had the capacity to be that organization and have those resources, take those requests, and then disseminate those supplies. I think that would be a really good resource for North Carolina. Another gap that we see is that there is currently no database for all of the firearm safety teams that are in North Carolina. We have 15 of them right now. And so where are they? What trainings do they provide? What regions do they work in? Do they focus on veterans? Do they focus on youth? So even having a grid that has the firearm safety teams listed and a series of columns with this various data would allow people to know who's doing what where and to better connect. So those are just two things we think would really help in this space.
Awesome. Yeah, those are all super helpful. Took a lot of notes there, and we're already working with Safe Kids and DPI, so you are right on the right track. More to come on that. Letitia, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, well, I had two comments. One relates to something that Anne had mentioned about access to the gun locks. One of the things that I have noticed is the who has the gun locks sometimes can be a bit problematic because individuals may not want to receive those gun locks from the individuals who have them. So finding a way to make gun locks accessible to people is going to be key. And then my second question or my second comment really was related to the messaging for NC Safe. I know you touched on in your presentation a little bit about having storage in cars, but is there any type of intentional messaging that you all could do related to car storage? And I say that because I know specifically here in Greensboro, we have had a lot of car break-ins, and the issues with that is that one of the things that is stolen most of the time is a handgun, and those are turning up in cases of violence. And so wanted to know if there was any consideration to developing something along those lines.
Yeah, so all great points. And one point of clarification on making the gun locks accessible, do you mean the organization that they're coming from or the actual person handing it out at the event?
So I mean, the actual, well, the organizations that they're coming from
Okay.
is one, because sometimes what happens is, and this is no slight to anyone, but there may be, like, I'll just say, like, the Guilford County Sheriff's Department has gun locks. I don't have a problem getting a gun lock from the Guilford County Sheriff's Department, and from their booth where they may be having an event. But I do know that I work in spaces where certain members of community would not feel comfortable going and getting that gun lock from those individuals. Doesn't mean they don't need the gun lock or want the gun lock. They just don't feel comfortable. So to Ann's point, having multiple pathways to receive those gun locks, I think is going to be key in spreading this message.
Perfect. And then your second part, remind me what you were saying in your second part.
Yeah, I was talking about messaging relating to
Yes.
storing guns in cars.
Yes. Sorry, so many thoughts going through my head. But yes, so we do have specific ads that have been developed this year. Gun theft from cars specifically has been a big subject. And so we have video ads, regular, just static ads talking about that issue. But I do think we can get even more specific. I think it's hard to, like, what we tell people is your firearm should be locked in your vehicle. It should be somehow attached to the vehicle. Like if you just put a cable lock and then leave it on your front seat, someone can still steal it. So making sure it's secured in your vehicle and locking your doors too. A lot of the gun thefts from cars are being stolen from cars where the car is actually unlocked. So it's like, so reminding them of those steps. We've been doing a lot of that in our different video assets, but can continue to get that message across throughout the campaign.
And is there a way for us to get maybe links to your campaigns? I know, like, I went to the website,
Yeah.
but is there a way for us to, like, just have those things on hand? Maybe we can share those on our social medias, or just to have it available.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think the best way is to probably send our video links. Everything's housed on YouTube, which then makes it easy to share and embed on social media. So we can definitely get back to you with the different links of those specific videos that talk about some of these different issues. We have suicide prevention ones, and gun theft from cars are all big themes there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is Caroline Ballin. I want to actually ask Letitia a quick question. Agreed that we want to come at this from different angles, and so we in government think of distribution through our channels, being law enforcement and public health channels, and are there other third parties that you think are trusted third parties where people would want to go that we're not identifying? We really focused on pediatricians' offices and through public health on top of law enforcement, but we're open.
Yeah, well, actually, I wrote down a note here to follow up after this and ask how I could get gun locks to give to the 4 nonprofit or community-based organizations that the city of Greensboro contracts with to do violence interruption and intervention services. So I think that they would be great avenues to give these gun locks out. And they already have outreach events and they do canvassing. So they have mechanisms in place to be able to really get these out to folks who may be a little hesitant to go through the traditional ways of whether it be government, whether, you know, or even our law enforcement partners as well.
And I just want to make sure, Sue, thank you, put in the chat also to think in terms of barbershops, realtors, and matriarchs in high-risk communities. Thank you for that.
Awesome. Yes, and I will take a look at the chat as well to make sure I didn't miss anything. Awesome. Okay, well, Ciara, I know we went a little bit over, so I will turn it back over to you. But thank you all again for all these great ideas. Would love to keep in touch. I'll drop my email in the chat here. So if you have any other thoughts, feel free to email me after.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. And no worries. I don't know if you saw my message, but I actually put in the chat that we were good to spend as much time as needed on this.
Sorry, from the screen share, I didn't have the chat up, but
No, you're fine. And I know Sheriff Burkhead, I think I saw your hand raised. So before we move forward, did you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you, Ciara. I just wanted to circle back. I think Letitia mentioned Department of Public Instruction. I think that's an excellent idea because we obviously, unfortunately, we're seeing weapons end up in the hands of our young people, and we are struggling with ways to reach them here in Durham, trying to get into our elementary schools because we're seeing 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds with access to weapons, and not only educating them to stay away from them, but also trying to get into the home and make a connection and do safe storage. So I was interested in knowing, is there anything taking place through the Department of Public Instruction to educate our youngest victims about gun safety? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually, we are on the brink of hopefully beginning a lot of work with the Department of Public Instruction to use them as an avenue to distribute information to school districts. And so hopefully a big piece, as long as the funding can be secured, to kind of do a specific education focused kind of campaign under the larger campaign umbrella.
Great. Thank you. And then finally, I'll send an email, Ciara. We have an event coming up in Durham, a ceasefire event. This will be our second annual. Love to have you come out and partner with us. We'll have community resources. We'll be fun and games for the entire family, but really focusing on how we can stop the violence and educate our young people. So I'll send that to you, Ciara, and you can distribute it to the group and invite everyone. Thank you.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
It looks like Martin also has a hand up.
Hi, yes, I'm Martin Avery. I'm one of the adult trauma surgeons. I just had two suggestions. Instead of just pediatric offices, have also focus on primary care and family medicine. There are often a lot of uncles and aunts and grandpas and grandmothers who carry firearms that may not be in the forefront of their mind when they and are not going to the pediatrician's office. And then the second thing, with people who do not want to use the gun locks because they want to have ready access to them, but another route to target them for safe storage is how are they carrying these? Are they carrying them in their pockets? Are they carrying them in jackets? Are they carrying them in purses? And then how unsafe it is to do so. I see plenty of firearm accidents. The last couple I saw were purse carry where the kid found it in their mouth first. One was in a jacket that they dropped it and tried to catch it midair and shot himself in the leg. So how they are carrying them is often also a target for education.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything else. Again, I'll drop my info in the chat if you all think of anything. But thank you again for your time and all of these great ideas. We will get back to work.
Sorry, I had my hand up.
Oh, sorry. I think I
No,
can't
that's
see
okay.
everyone. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's okay, don't worry. So I had put it in the chat, but I think it would be good, I forgot who suggested it, but talking about the gun safety task force, because many of them are doing different events and different things. And for instance, Durham's Firearm Prevention Partnership has a PSA running right now on the radio on YouTube, billboards, and on buses about safe storage and not doing it in cars and giving statistics about how many guns are stolen from cars, things like that. And I think that's very powerful, along with the artwork that is done for it. And then also working on having gun locks in getting gun locks approved to be given out in schools to parents in parent-teacher meetings and things like that. So I think, you know, looking at different ways to partner and also having gun locks available everywhere. Like we have gun locks at our program, at the Hospital-Based Violence Intervention Program. We got them from the VA, and the VA gives them out all the time. But also the other partners that are a part of the task force have gun locks available as well. So whether that is Bull City United, whatever other programs are a part of this task force that are supporting the community, have them so that, you know, it's not just our law enforcement partners, but just in general, everywhere has them available. So I think it's possible. And then Duke itself, the primary care gives it, also adult primary care just got approved, and then we're working on doing it from the pediatric ER, so to Dr. Jacobs' point right there. So I think just looking at ways to have them available and having the messaging get across is very important.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. We can definitely keep all of that in mind and love the VA idea as well.
I just want to add, Kelly, this is Billy Laster with DPS. Thank you so much for the presentation. Great job this morning. And to a lot of the ideas that folks are putting out there, we're definitely excited about those opportunities and trying to figure out how we can partner with more organizations. And one of the things that Kelly talked about, and I think is really important that we're trying to do right now, is work with DPI and school systems across the state to get the messaging out. A lot of school districts are looking at putting it in their student handbooks. We're looking at a video that all kids across the state of North Carolina in public schools are going to watch at the beginning of the school year, where we'll try to incorporate some of this messaging into that. And so I think those are really good ideas. And we're also trying to figure out if there's a way to set up on the NC Safe website where people could just, if they want more locks, I think Ann brought up, nobody knows exactly where the place is to get more locks and those types of things. Trying to set up a place on the website that people could go to and just order additional locks for their organization. And so we're trying to see if that's something that we can do in the future. We're working on trying to set that up and figure out if it would be that the locks would be completely free to those organizations, or if we would just subsidize those moving forward. We've got quite a few in inventory right now, but I think as we've seen, these are very popular. We've already given out 50,000 gun locks across the state, which is a good thing. And most of the events that we go to, people are extremely interested in getting these locks, and especially when they find out they don't have to answer a bunch of questions, they don't have to get registered anywhere. And I think that speaks to several people's concerns about what organizations are giving out the locks. We're making sure that they're accessible as possible. So we're trying to set that up on the website so that people can order them that way. You can always send an email to the NC Safe through that website, and we'll try to meet any of your needs for additional locks in your local communities that we can do through the current supplies that we have. And so we are applying for additional funding. I think Caroline talked about that, and that the additional funding is really going to try to focus on that whole education, focusing on schools and how we can work with schools moving forward. So we've had a really great partnership with Kelly and her team at Rheingold, and we really appreciate all the work that they've done, but also with all the partnerships that we've had with, this has been a full whole of government approach that we've taken with NC Safe. And we really appreciate the local efforts, the state government efforts, the community efforts that are going into making this campaign work. And the input that you guys are giving today is extremely helpful for us to think through what do we want to do in the future to make this campaign continue. So thank you, everybody, for your input today.
Thank you again, Kelly, so much for that presentation. And thank you everyone for this great discussion. I'm really excited for these future collaborations that hopefully come out of this discussion today and for you all to be able to use these resources from NC Safe more in your day-to-day work. And we'll, after this call, we'll obviously send a follow-up email and we'll make sure we redistribute Kelly's information for everyone, and links to the NC Safe website. But all right, unless there are any more questions, we're gonna move forward on the agenda. Okay, so next on the agenda, I wanted to see if we could have a discussion about our future advisory board meetings. I just wanted to get some feedback from you all. One, about moving forward, what you might be interested in seeing during these meetings, what topics you may want other presentations on, or topics you want to have discussions about. Basically, how would you like to use this time? As I mentioned, at our next meeting, we hope to spend a good portion of that time talking about the strategic plan draft, but then we also have put out the idea of potentially getting a presentation from Injury and Violence Prevention Branch, and then GCC from the data shops in both of those organizations to talk more about the state level data that's available to inform violence prevention work. So that's something that has been put out there that we're thinking about. But otherwise, we have an open slate. And so I wanted to get some feedback from you all on what you're interested in using our advisory board meeting time for. And just as a reminder, we're going to be moving to a quarterly schedule after our August meeting. So we'll see each other again in August, but then after that, our next meeting will be, right now, we've tentatively scheduled it for November 19th. And that'll be our last meeting for the calendar year. And so another thing that I'm looking for feedback on is y'all's interest in potentially having that meeting in person or not. And I just wanted to gauge your interest in that. So 2 questions out there right now, and I've actually, Carrington has helped put together a survey that I'll share with you all to kind of formally collect this information, but in the little time that we have now, I just want to open it up if anybody has any immediate thoughts. Letitia.
Yeah, I think in terms of meeting in person, we should do that at least once a year. So I think having that last meeting in person is going to be beneficial. Honestly, I would say while we're in the process of developing this plan, we probably need to be more intentional about having some meetings that are face-to-face. Maybe that's something our subcommittees can look at, but I just think we'll be able to get more of our attention span, because I know we're all busy, but when we're in person, it helps to be able to have focused attention to what we need to be discussing.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Hi, Sierra. This is Glorina. Good morning, everybody. Also wanted to ask, when you have those in-person meetings, would there be an option for it to be hybrid to offer that virtual option, just in case there are others that can't make it? If not, it's totally okay. Just asking.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So right now, our preference is, if we are going to do it in person, for it to be completely in person or completely virtual, just because it's a little difficult sometimes to facilitate a good hybrid meeting and make sure that the folks online are as engaged as the in-person folks.
Totally agreed. No problem. Yeah. We
Thank
would
you.
always have representation with IVP. Just asking. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
I do
Glorina.
agree with them going quarterly. I think that's a better use of time. Even if if you had to make them longer to get more in, I'd rather do that, and we have them quarterly. So that's great.
Thanks, that's helpful feedback. Okay. Any other thoughts about the formatting as far as virtual in person, or thoughts about content topics that you'd like to discuss or use our time for during these meetings?
Sheriff Burkhead, Sierra. No, I agree with what Letitia said about us being intentional in meeting and really having some fruitful dialogue. And one of the things I'd like for us to gather is best practices. What's happening in other communities? Because we're doing a ton of things here in Durham, not necessarily best practices, but we're doing a ton of things in Durham, and I'd like to know what's happening across the state for the purpose of developing a plan for this advisory board on how we can be supportive in helping those individuals continue to be successful, those groups continue to be successful, and how we can share the best practices of these strategies in various communities, because I know there's some really good work happening in various parts of North Carolina. So I'd like to see something like that.
Great, that's helpful. Any other thoughts from anyone? And like I said, we're gonna send out a survey to also collect feedback, so you don't have to feel like, the pressure to have all your answers right now on the spot. You can take some more time to think about it. But just want to give a chance to open it up if there were any immediate thoughts. So, oh, I don't know who that was, but go ahead.
Hey, I'm sorry, Sierra. That was me, Letitia again. I was going to say another thing that could be beneficial for these meetings is to Sheriff Burkhead's point, an opportunity to want to talk about what we're doing in our respective communities. For one, so that the state knows it can be able to be a resource and have that information. But then two, even if we're able to pool our resources for certain things, like if we're doing a training, like if someone is having a training somewhere and it's a central, like if I'm having a training in Greensboro and the folks in Durham, that's right down the street, or vice versa, maybe we could pull our resources together to start to maximize, on getting these opportunities for training and then utilize our dollars better.
Thanks, Letitia. That's a good idea. Any other thoughts at the moment? Okay. Well, Carrington is going to drop the link in the chat to that survey for y'all to complete, and then we'll also send it out via email. And also in that survey, we're going to take the opportunity to kind of recollect contact information from you all, just to make sure we have the most current information, because some folks' contact information has seemed to change over the past few months. So if you can just complete that, it would be great if you can complete it by this Friday. But if you need more time, that's fine. But if you could just take a few minutes, it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes to fill that survey out. Another question that is on that survey is regarding potential new subcommittees. So once we get the recommendations from your subcommittees and move forward on building out the strategic plan, your task as a subcommittee will be complete. And so moving forward, I put that question in there about a new subcommittee that would be a little bit more intimately involved in like brainstorming and planning for some of the activities that OVP will be doing over the next few months, such as planning a statewide convening, planning trainings, and then also educational resources. So for this new subcommittee, we're not gonna assign like we did last time. It's going to be volunteer, because I know, you know, you all took a lot of time out of your schedules to participate in those subcommittees, and may not have the capacity to continue to do that throughout the rest of the year. But so that's why it's going to be volunteer for those who have the interest and capacity. So that's another question that will be up there on that survey. And I see your comment in the chat, Zuri, and Carrington will update the link, but we'll also send it out via email. Okay, any immediate questions about any of that?
Hey, Ciara, this is Sue Ann. I just had a question. Is that the survey, is it a Google Doc?
No, it's a Microsoft Forms.
Okay. All right. Maybe when she sends it out, because I actually just tried to open it and the hospital is blocking it, but that's not totally uncommon. So I'll try it again when she sends it out. Thank you.
All right. And just let me know if you do continue to have issues. I can send it to you in a different format. All right.
Sierra,
Any
this
other-
Chair Burkhead,
Yeah.
and maybe for Caroline, are we working with the data team that we've established through the Governor's Crime Commission to really attempt to collect as much data around gun violence and age groups? I think that information would be useful for us to discuss here and try to drill down as much as possible geographically, demographically. So are we doing any work with our data group? Michelle?
So yes, sir, and I don't want to mess up the details on this. So Dr. Tilson or Ciara, please step in. Really, DPS and DHHS are extending a partnership to just work better on data collection, which, you know, is always a need, and it's so important, but it's not easy to navigate. But probably our most recent effort that we're excited about is and Dr. Tilson, please help me here, gun violence epidemiologist that is going to be, is that correct? Can you?
Yeah, let me just jump in and thank you for the question. And we actually have a lot of data resources, but I think thinking through how to identify them and then make sure they're accessible for people, just like you were saying. So we have some great data within the Division of Public Health in our injury and violence prevention branch. So we have firearm injury data that comes from our emergency departments. And then it very much looks at demographics, age, race, and county geographically, where they're coming from. We also have, unfortunately, very good death data as well. We have what's called the violent death, VDRS, the Violent Death Reporting System. And then we also, through our state health statistics, we have death data as well. We also have criminal data, criminal justice data that comes with the Governor's Crime Commission as well. So we have really good data. Within the Division of Public Health, we do put out quarterly reports and try to have that be more accessible. But I'm so excited about this. It sounds a little wonky, but I'm really, really excited about this. The Governor's Crime Commission had some dollars to support more data work. So the Governor's Crime Commission with Carolyn Farmer is working with Scott Preshabell, who's one of our main epidemiologists in our injury and violence prevention branch, specifically on funding a position specifically dedicated to firearm epidemiology. And that role will be specifically to look at, especially these two data sets, combining criminal data with firearm injury data, as well as other data sets, thinking about our justice involved people, having that data be there, being able to report on, or having more accessible reports, doing presentations, having it be in an accessible way so that exactly like people on this advisory committee, as well as our communities, will be able to really be able to intersect with this data in a little bit more of a user-friendly way. So that is in the works. I'm so excited. I think this has been an amazing collaboration from this effort that Caroline Farmer's like, ooh, we have money and now I know Scott. And so let's think about how we collaborate on the back end. So absolutely, and that is coming, and we will have a dedicated person just to look at that data and make it really accessible and share it more broadly. Because we have a lot of data. I think people just don't really know what data we have, and they can't really use it on the ground yet. So we're going to get much better at that. So sorry, that was a longer and more excited answer than you were expecting, but that is in the works and will be coming soon.
I just wanted to say real quick, thank you, Dr. Tilson, for that. We're super, super excited, and Scott's not able to be on, but he is excited about this. Of course, we are with this partnership with DPS and being able to do this. And again, we thank GCC and Caroline for that. That means a whole lot. And we're excited. This person will also be somewhat of a liaison, and I know when there's specific requests, Ciara, they'll also work with Dr. Tilson and in our office and just make sure that things flow smoothly. So we're excited about that also. So just wanted to say thanks a lot, Dr. Tilson.
Yeah, and Ciara, this might be a really good topic again. I think we've talked a little bit about the data in the past, but it's such an important thing that may be a future topic for this advisory board to make sure people know the data, how to access the data. When we have this new person on board, this will probably be a good topic, I think, for this advisory committee, so they know who's the contact and what data that we have. It might be a really good topic for the future.
Yeah. First of all, thank you all. Thanks for that question, Sheriff Burkhead, and thanks, Caroline, Betsy, and Glorina for sharing that update. And I completely forgot to include that on our staffing updates. So I'm glad that it came up. And just more context, that position will be shared between IVPP and OVP. So yeah, very much looking forward to getting that person on board, and that should be happening within the next few weeks. And then in terms of the topic of talking about data during this presentation, that is something that currently I have as a pending topic for us to cover during our next advisory board meeting. So splitting the time between talking about a strategic plan and then having a presentation from Scott. Scott is definitely going to be presenting, and then I'm hoping that Michelle can also present to talk about the data housed in Injury and Violence Prevention Branch, and then also the data housed at the CJAC at GCC. So I'm glad that that's of interest because we should be having those conversations next meeting. All right, well, I want to open it up in our last few minutes to see if there are any general updates from anybody in the advisory board that you'd like to share. So updates about your programs, if you want to share any highlights, successes, or if you have any upcoming events that you'd like to share with the group. Just want to open that space now for folks to share anything.
Ciara, I don't have an update, but I certainly want to extend a thank you to you for stepping up. The advisory board's gone through some transition, some difficult transition, and I just want to say thank you for taking the helm and continuing to lead us and say publicly you have my full support.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
So I have an update. I felt like I was talking a lot. I wanted to let the group know, and I'll send this to you, Ciara, so if you want to send it out to the rest of the group. But the City of Greensboro Office of Community Safety, we released our first quarter report for our community-based violence intervention and interruption program, where we are partnering with 4 community-based organizations that are spread throughout the City of Greensboro doing the work of violence interruption and intervention. Just talking about the impact of those programs within the first quarter. And I'd love to share that information with the rest of the group.
Awesome.
Drop it in the chat and send it to you, Ciara.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
I'll make sure that's in our update.
I was quiet, but Letitia, I want to thank you for sharing that. I'm always speaking up for the rural area in North Carolina. I live down here in Edenton, and that interrupters program is something that I am trying to get the town to buy into. And so thank you for sharing your data. That's going to be helpful for me.
Awesome. Any other updates from anyone that you'd like to share? Okay. I know there are some updates, but maybe y'all are shy, so we'll move forward. But you can always feel free to also share those with me via email, and I can share with the group again any upcoming events y'all have or just highlights you'd like to share about the successes of your groups. And I see your hand is raised.
Hey there, I just wanted to say that the Comprehensive Suicide Prevention Team, we participated in the Suicide Prevention Summit over in Chapel Hill the other week. One of our team members was an expert on a panel, another was a moderator, and then Charlene Wong from the CDC actually got up and spoke about the new national strategy coming out, and she did a great shout out to the work the Comprehensive Suicide Prevention Team has been doing. And then in the afternoon, there was an expo, and we had over 70 people come by our table and talk with us and take our materials. And we had 33 additional people sign up to be on our listserv. So it was a really good day of finding new partners and engaging and talking about suicide prevention. And as we know in this space, gun violence is a big part of that. So yay!
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Anne. That's really exciting. I heard a lot of good things about that conference. All right. Well, if there are no other updates, we can wrap things up for today. So just as a reminder, I'll be emailing out that survey and the link to our listserv survey for you all to complete by this Friday if you can, and listserv to share out with your networks. And then I'll also be sending follow-ups about this meeting with contact information from Kelly. I'll share the links to Letitia's report and also Sheriff Burkhead's upcoming ceasefire event. And then if there's anything else, like I said, from the group that you all would like to be shared, please send it to me and I'll make sure it gets included in that email out to everyone. But otherwise, thank you again for being here this morning. I know it was early. Really appreciate you being here and being so engaging and participating. And I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.